Welcome to The Neutral Ground. This week, my guest is Christopher Korman. Now, if that name sounds familiar to you, it's likely because Christopher is the son of the late, great comedian Harvey Korman. You know, the man who played Hedley Lamar in Blazing Saddles and Count de Monet in History of the World Part 1, and has appeared in numerous television shows like The Flintstones, The Carol Burnett Show, The Love Boat, and even the beloved cartoon Hey Arnold! Now, although Harvey Korman had a tremendous amount of success as an actor, lauded by people like Mel Brooks, Robin Williams, and Burt Lancaster. And by the way, we will definitely have some fun stories involving, celebrities and whatnot. The Korman family experienced their fair share of trials and tribulations. In this episode, we're going to talk about family, about deep struggles with health, about the healing power of laughter, about the impact that a loving father can have on his children. If you enjoy the conversation, definitely check out Christopher Korman's book, Oh My God, It's Harvey Korman's Son. It will leave you with a smile and some good cheer. There's a link in the episode notes below to the book if you're interested. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Christopher Korman. Chris, welcome to The Neutral Ground. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Well, I'm doing better now than I did the first time.
Yes. Well, it's our technology.
It's not my friend.
Well, we got it all figured out now, just in time too, because this is a great conversation for people, to listen to, quite honestly.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I really do, Joseph.
Of
You
course.
have a great show, and what you do and who you're reaching is a beacon to a lot of people. I think people need an outlet. They need to be educated to find out what's going on in this world and how to better their life, and that's what you provide.
That's really nice. Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate that. Well, I want to begin. Let's begin this then with actually a compliment for you. You complimented me, and now I'm going to compliment you.
Okay.
Many people listening to this will likely be familiar with your father's work, right? People that he's worked with, Mel Brooks, Carol Burnett, Tim Conway. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, as you know.
Yeah.
But what I enjoyed the most about your book, Oh My God, It's Harvey Korman's Son, is that you write it from the perspective of family. At least that's the part that I really connected with, was how close the bond was between you and your father, and how you kind of nurtured each other in a lot of different ways, which was quite beautiful to read. I think people who enjoy your father's work will come away with even more esteem for him as a person. And that's pretty wonderful for you to be able to do that.
I appreciate that compliment because it validates the whole concept of the book, because my wife said, if you're going to write the book, make it a celebration of who he is. It should have I didn't know that feel to it. I didn't know that. Because if it's just about who he was on stage, then I'm just like every other child of every other celebrity. I'm just telling stories just to tell stories. And then it sounds like it's bragging. And that's not what I want the book to be about. I wanted to have a full measure of who he was through my eyes, because Carol's written a book, Vicky's written a book, Tim has written a book. They've all written a book about their perception of my father in their domain, not in my domain. So it had to have that flavor to it. It had to be a celebration of who he was and a love letter to his fans. And so I appreciate you saying that, because that was the whole intent behind the book. It wasn't to be self-congratulatory. It wasn't to say, hey, look how great I am. People can say, well, you had a blessed life. I said, well, maybe by the standpoint of what's in my wallet, maybe. But, you can have all the money in the world, but it can't protect you from personal travails.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's a good place actually to enter into this, because I want to enter into this discussion actually through you and through a little bit of your childhood. Could you tell us a little bit about your childhood and some of those travails that you were just mentioning?
I had I came into this world, I was 6 months, premature cesarean section. I had a thing called Hyline, Hyliene, membrane disease, lack of oxygen to the brain and the central nervous system. which basically really affected my hand-eye coordination, my gross motor skills. So, and also having a ever so slight speech impediment, which I can't. Might have been caused by the buck teeth. I had reconstructive jaw surgery when I was like 14. I've had surgery on my eyes at the Jules Stein Medical Center at probably 2 years old. I had cross eyes. So my entry into this world wasn't, leave it to Beaver. It was more like Roger Rabbit on crack. It was just crazy. And, my early life in school was that my parents could tell and the school could tell that my skills were not comparative to the other children. So they figured something's going on. So they got me tested, and I went to the Marion Frostick Center for early education. Now, Marion Frostick is very interesting in that she was a pioneer, in that she was the first woman to link perceptual disturbances with LD. What the key aspect to my development, and anyone who went to Frostick, was the whole child approach to educational. It wasn't just feed into the educational needs, it was emotional, it was the psychological, it was the creative, the artistic part. You address the whole child. You don't feed into the weaknesses or the struggles of the child. You figure out what strengths they do have, and you hone in on those aspects of the child. So it was very progressive in that my whole day was serving my physical needs, my emotional needs, all those needs, creative, social, whatever they are. And then, so the struggles would not dominate the positive parts of who I was. And I went to Frostick probably for 10 years, and I was fortunate enough to co-host a golf tournament on their behalf for 22 years, 13 of them with my father, and then Wayne Rogers and Frankie Avalon and Doug Sanders. And so I was the poster child for Frostick. And, some people say, being out there that young, Joseph, is that a normal position a child should be put in, to ask them to be a voice, a face of a tournament. And my mom, my dad went back and forth and said, if we don't let him do it, what are we saying to him? And my mom's only fear was it was going to go to my head. And I said, Mom, I don't think you could be the son of a cross-dressing Jew from Chicago and have an ego. She said, good point. But I mean, in the bigger scale of that, but I think it had to be about the idea that you can celebrate my learning disability, my speech impediment, as a positive, because it's not keeping me from evolving and growing to the person I became. If you put me in the closet, you're saying to people, it's not okay to be different. What message do you send children and other people with that? So my parents were very progressive in that. It's, you come downstairs for parties, but then it's time for adults. But they never made me feel like it was not okay to be different. They celebrate my differences as much as my sameness qualities. So that in itself was a blessing. So then if you stretch it out, Joseph, my attitude was, if they're going to celebrate my disability and not make me feel shameful, why should I then? Then I'm undoing all the hard work the teachers did on me. All the people who sacrificed time away from their families so I could have a better life. I do a disservice to them by not following through on the resources they gave me to evolve. So the best thing I can do for people who have helped me is keep on going.
Yeah. And in the book, you have this wonderful moment where your parents say to you, you have challenges, so does everyone else. And you have to deal with those, just like everyone else has to deal with them. That must have been, in the time, I could see where someone might take that hurtfully, and yet looking back think, wow, that was really empowering. How did that make you feel in the moment when you heard that?
I felt like a load had been lifted off my shoulders. Now I didn't have to live up to any unrealistic expectations. I could just measure my expectations based on what's realistic for me. My dad said you can be the best Chris Korman you can be, and that's all you should be. If you're going to be the best trash collector, be the best trash collector. Be be the best at what you're doing in your life that makes you happy vocationally. But he would say, Chris, the only time you fail in life is when you don't try. You can't use me and your mother as a measuring stick or other siblings because their path is different than yours. Not less important, just different. So your path you have to stay the course on your path and what's best for you, and stay the course and do things on the merits of what's right for you. And don't ever measure your successes versus mine, because you do that, then you're going to find that you're using my fame as a cop-out. And I can't let you do that. And I won't let you do that. Because for so many times I've said to him over the years, Joseph, I said, sometimes I felt like at times maybe I did feel like I had used the LD as, oh, okay, I'm doing my best, but no matter what I do, is it ever going to measure up to what my dad did? My dad said, no, that's in your head. I never communicated that thought to you. If you use my fame as a crutch, that's worse than using your disability as a crutch. It's a cop-out, because I'm not asking you to be me. I'm asking you to be the best Chris Korman you can be. And do more, and the more you do for yourself, that's great. I said, well, okay, but the other than always feels like, well, everybody else is doing more, and I'm just status quo. I'm just doing enough to get the job. I'm just doing enough to pay the bills. I just whatever. And when you feel like a lot of your life, your father is the breadwinner in your family, you feel, okay, how de-escalating that can be to a young person. But my father said, you know what, Chris? I would rather have you do a part-time job that you love and have me help you than do a job you hate and have to support you completely. I thought, wow. I didn't think of it that way. I said, it's not a crutch. I said, I'm not giving you a Rolls Royce. I'm saying, just do enough, get the job that you want, that fulfills you, that completes you, that gives you pride. If it doesn't pay you enough, I supplement you. If it's better than going to work, finding out you don't really like the job, then you have to stall over, find another job, and then I have to support you more. But if at least you get a part-time job, it's that you showed you didn't use a disability as a crutch. You tried your best. And that's all I can ask you to do.
Yeah, there's this wonderful balance in the book of this constant support, and yet at the same time kind of a kick in the rear of like, you've got to do. Absolutely. And one of these, and it didn't always come from your parents. One of the more moving moments in the book for me that I was quite taken aback by, which was beautiful, was when you were doing in school, you had this kind of physical day where you were doing athletics. And in the book, the way you describe it is almost in the moment you knew, all right, I already know I'm going to come in last or something somewhere close to that.
Oh, okay.
But there at the end is the beautiful Carol Burnett. And all she says is, something like, hey, way to go. Nicely done. Can you talk a little bit about what that meant to you in the moment to get that uplifting kind of comment?
Well, I'll put it into context. For those who don't know who Ernie Anderson was the voice of Love Boat on ABC. This is the Love Boat. And Ernie Anderson was a repertory player on the Burnett Show, gray-haired man. And he did a lot of voiceover work on the Burnett Show. And you hear at the end of the Burnett Show, this is your wacko announcer. And Ernie and Tim Conway were partners in Cleveland together, radio guys. So Ernie would have these huge, spectacular parties and events at their house. Everybody was there, and all the celebrities were there. So he would do relays, and the 3 teams, yellow, blue, and green. And you had to jump over, I had to walk around in a circle and then jump onto the monkey bars and then twirl around and try to jump over Shelley Winters or, whatever. And I'm not the most coordinated human being in the world. I wasn't at that age. I probably still am no more coordinated now than I was then. And I said to my dad, I don't really want to do this. I'm not going to come in last. And everybody's going, oh God, Chris came in last. We lost. Chris, it's supposed to be fun. But there's a competitiveness among people that are just there, and you have to accept that. And I didn't want to let anyone down. So when I got to the finish line, Carol was in her shirt, not on my team, or she was on my team actually, I think, and she was there at the exit at the final part of the race, and she had her arms out, and she said, "Great job, Chris." And I, hindsight is 20/20 or 50/50, and you look back and go, what value is that going to have later on in my life? And I thought, well, it's everything to me, because I actually told Carol that story, and she said, "God, you have incredible memory, Chris." And I said, "Well, because it was a transcendent moment in my life." And she said, "How is that?" I said, "Because I felt bad that I came in last, my hand-eye coordination, all of these things, and I didn't want to let anyone down. And there you were, validating me that I did my best. And whether you had a relationship with my father or not, I think is contrary to the issue that you were there for me. You could have been, my dad could have been the biggest jerk. You still would have been there for me." And that meant a lot to me, Carol. And I told her that, and we hugged, and I told her it was just a transcending moment in my life, because you don't expect it. You hope you're going to get it, and it's there for you unconditionally. And many years later, it permeates other parts of my life that I don't realize it's permeating. It's permeating when I'm taking a test. It's permeating when I do something for my wife or my son, or I get a new job, or I do something that sticks with me. Subconsciously, it's there. That moment is in there in my head. And if I don't try my best, I'm letting Carol down, I'm letting my father down, I'm letting my wife down, my son down, and I'm letting myself down, worst of all. And what does that say to me? Is that I gave up on people who give up on me. I give up on myself. So I can't do that. I have to honor all those people who helped me by keep on going.
Yeah.
And that memory that Carol presented to me is a bugle charge of, hey, keep on going. You're doing fine. Just keep on being yourself. Don't be anything that you can't be, because you might disappoint somebody. And that goes back to what my father said. You only fail in life is when you don't try.
Yeah.
So, so that memory is embedded in my head. And anytime I talk to Carol, or I've seen her, the last time I saw her at the memorial, where I talked to her, I had shared her that story. And she said, "My God, you have an incredible memory." I said, "Well, it stands out."
Yeah.
More so than you.
You never know. Truly, Chris, you never know what stays with someone. I have, my own story. Every so often, I'll say it this way. I'll tell a specific story here about my teaching early on. This was before I knew what I was doing, and I mean, there are times today I don't know what I'm doing, but this was way back, my first semester teaching college, and I had a student who was a bit older at the time, coming back to college, and I saw her at the end of my class. She was crying. And I immediately went over, because I thought, oh my goodness, like, did I say something? Like, what happened? She was crying because another teacher had told her something about how she should consider dropping out. Now, she was only there, she told me, she was there because she wanted to show her two sons that they could be a family of college educated people. And what I did is I said, and of course I was young, and I said, you know what? To hell with them. Don't listen to them. They're wrong. You have a say in this, what you want to do. I stayed with her a couple of times after my class, and I worked with her on her writing, because the writing was the major part, the communication. English was not her first language. Okay, so fast forward. I leave New York, where I was teaching on Long Island, and now I'm in the state of Arkansas in my second year of my PhD. I get a random email from this student inviting me to her graduation party. And I hadn't spoken to her since we were in the classroom. And I just politely said, I'm sorry, I can't be there. I'm in Arkansas at this point, but I'm so proud of the work you're doing, and I'm proud of the work that you're showing your two boys, your two sons. I had forgotten about that exchange until I got that email. And this is why we need to be as uplifting as we can to each other, because you just don't know what it's going to do to someone's trajectory of life. It's that important.
Oh my God, you just remind me of a story. Almost exact same thing. I am living in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. I'm walking down with a laundromat. I look like a Jewish lady from Chicago, walking around with a babushka, walking around with a basket full of laundry. And I'm reading this letter, and I'm seeing Marilyn Dubner. I got halfway in the middle of the traffic, and I stopped. And I said, "Holy sh!" Marilyn Dubner was my high school teacher. She's a substitute lab teacher in my college in Threshold in Boston, but she went by the name of Rupert. So I'm looking at this letter she sent me, and it's Dubner. I'm like, I don't know Dubner. Marilyn Dubner. Halfway in the middle of the street, I said, "Holy, it's Marilyn Rupert. Okay, thank you for the job." It's like, oh my God, did I sleep through the last 40 years of my life and I forgot I got people a job? I can't get me one, but I can get my friend one who I don't know. Barely, because she was, like I said, she was a lab teacher in my program at Threshold. I saw her once in a while. She said, "You made a recommendation to Frostic for me." And the dean had called me in and I got the job. And I've been in Frostic for like 5 years. And I'm thinking, I probably should get out of traffic at this point, because I'm going to get hit by a car. And I the last side of me does not want to be on the front page of the Philadelphia Inquirer having laundry strewn all over me. Son of Harvey Korman dead by laundry attack. So I got on the side of the road, and I looked at the letter. Came home and I said, "Governor, oh, Rupert, oh, you idiot." And I called her. And I said, "What are you talking about? I got you a job. How is that possible? We haven't spoken in, 10 years, 15, 12, 8, She goes, "You recommended to the president of Frosted, the dean, and they called me in on your recommendation." I'm like, "I did?" I honestly had to react to that. Like you reacted, was, "I did? You don't know what your impact is going to be." I didn't know how much credibility I had with Frostic. It was more like, "You're Harvey's son. We'll humor you." Maybe that was it. I don't know. But they gave her the job. So I guess my name meant something, and she'd always thank me from then on. And it was like, oh wow, you don't really think your impact matters until something happens, and it humbles you to keep on going. Okay, keep on going.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if me and you had stopped doing what we were doing, we're not impacting the people we're impacting. And it's easy to get caught up in your own struggles and go, "Oh, what is my value? What is my worth?" And then somebody else validates, keep on going, keep on doing what you're doing. It's like, okay, I have to then. Marilyn gave me that. That student with the 2 kids gave you that validation. Keep on going. Because it's been very easy. It would be very easy to give up and say, "No, enough. Enough is enough. I don't need this."
And they give you a gift back too, right? Like I'm never going to forget that, because she taught me in that moment that what you say matters. It matters, and how you say it and the trajectory of where your words are trying to take someone. Do you want to try to take them to a better place? Look, I've said things to students that I meant them to be incredibly motivational, and they just look at me like, "What?" That happens. But at least I can feel good about knowing that the intention was to try to uplift, right? That's really what we're asking for, is think about your intentions there.
Well, it's better that you imparted it and leave it to them to decide to take what they need to take from what you said than not say it at all. Then you have regrets later.
Yeah.
Regrets are like tells. Everybody's got one. But, it's like my attitude is if I don't evolve and I don't grow and I don't learn the life lessons I have, how can I not impart it to other people? So I got to the point where I have to now use my LD as an educational component that has relevance for others, and not see it as, "Oh my God, my learning disability, my speech impediment, oh my this." I don't have the chance to wallow. I have I'm married and I have a child. I don't have the luxury of going, "Woe is me." So
And the relationship that you show, which is my favorite part of the book, is the relationship that you two have, you and your father, and how it's reciprocal, how you help each other in these ways. And there are two specific scenes in the story that are just phenomenal at showing this. And the first one, and you know where I'm going to go here, because it's just so funny, is you're at this party, and I'll let you establish the context and everything, but you're at this party, and in walks future James Bond, Mr. Pierce Brosnan. Can you set that up for us? Because it is hysterical.
In 1983, Mama's Family was going on air. Every network had what they call a kickoff party. And they have all the actors from that show, that network, they do little skits and little moments. So before the party, my dad is there to represent, because he co-directed Mama's Family the first 2 years. So he was there to represent Mama's Family with Vicky and Rue and Betty White and all these people. So we're in this hallway outside the set, and it's a party and a kickoff party for NBC. So there's Eric Brown and all these actors from Ed Begley Jr. from St. Elsewhere, and all these people. Now, my dad and I had to be there for an hour. We were going to go to a Dodger game. So my dad is regaled in a half a tux in a Dodger jacket. Somewhere Mr. Blackwell is crying. And he said, well, hold the jacket. Give me the tux jacket, and you hold me the Dodger jacket. I said, okay. So I held the Dodger jacket the whole night. I felt like a valet. He should have paid me as a valet, but that's here nor there. So we're in this room. Now, Pierce is tall enough, and I'm tall enough to know I could see him across the room. I'm thinking, oh my God, if he comes over, that's the end of my life as I know it, because I will have to stick my head in a punch bowl if my dad says something incredibly stupid. So I'm now talking under my breath, Dad, Pierce Brosnan is walking your way. Of course, my dad says, what? It's like a really bad dummy act, a really bad dummy act. Pierce Brosnan is coming your way. Who? Pierce Brosnan and Remington Steele, you schmuck. It's like, oh, Remington Steele. Oh, Stephanie Zimbalist. Yeah, well, don't say Stephanie Zimbalist. Don't say this is the Stephanie Zimbalist show. He'll shoot you right here, and I'll help him. Pierce is now about 2 feet away from us. Hi, Harvey. It's a great honor to meet you. Oh, Pierce, it's a great honor to meet you. I love your show. You're a big star. He had to say, oh, but Remington Steele, that's you and, that's a Stephanie Zimbalist. Like, shut up. Don't help me. Just go back in the car. Like, that's how I feel like saying to him. Now, Pierce doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know if my dad's joshing with him. Oh, come on, Pierce. I was just, joking. I know you're the big star. I'm like, were you raised by wolves? I mean, what? So Pierce is now looking at me like, I said, well, it's an honor to meet you, Mr. Brosnan. And I love Pierce. I love Remington Steele. You and Stephanie Zimbalist and Doris Roberts, who went on to be the mother on Everyone Loves Raymond. And all you guys are just great together. Thank you. So then my dad chimes in, oh, it's a great show. The Cary Grant of TV. I'm like, thank God Dad did something smart. Thank you, Dad. Thank you for the heavens above. My dad was an idiot. And Pierce walked away. They shook hands. My dad turned around and it's like, I swear to God, Chris, if you leave me unless you go to the bathroom, you better be next to me all night. Yeah. I said, I'm going to have to. Yeah. I can't leave you alone for 20 seconds.
And that's the funny thing about it too. The way that you portray it in the book is that you were genuinely helping him. Like you really were trying to help him with this issue of trying to keep track of all of these people.
I think when you become as big as he became, I think, if you're not a nighttime watcher, I think you become so big that I don't think the people who are really huge know who everybody else is. And you should, but you can't know everybody. But I was a nighttime watcher. I watched Remington Steele. I watched Knight Rider. I knew who everybody was. I said, Dad, now all the times you argue with me and discussed with me about how important I should not be watching television, I should be doing something else. My watching television just saved your you-know-what.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but there's a balance between watching too much TV and being active. I said, I gave him that one. I said, play baseball, do what you need to do, but, you watch TV when you can and you get your homework done, fine. I don't want you to be in front of the TV set all night. I said, I shouldn't, and I wasn't. But that at that point, it was a saving grace for him. So
Yeah, and that also, it'll take me into the second scene here, which was a little more serious and profound in a lot of ways. I found it profound in a lot of ways. And what it was your father directed a 1987 production of The History of Laughter, and it had Carol Burnett, and it had Carl Reiner, Whoopi Goldberg, and the late great Robin Williams. And you were there in the audience with a friend, and you just by chance were sitting in front of, I believe, Robin Williams' agent. And then can you pick it up from there?
Okay, he was. We're sitting on the right side, the bottom half of the studio at stage 33, which is where they did the Burnett Show. Excuse me. And actually, my best friend Scott Marshall and I from high school were sitting in back, the second row behind his manager. And Scott and I were talking. And I said, "Oh my God, Scott, you won't believe my dad the whole week he was cavelling, and oh my God, he's working with Robin Williams, and he was overwhelmed by him, and he didn't want to squash Robin's improv skills. He wanted to let him be able to do what he needed to do, and he was so nervous." And Scott's like, "Well, you work with Robin Williams. I mean, anybody would be intimidated, Chris." I said, "Yeah, but and because you want to serve Carol's needs, Carl's needs, Whoopi's needs, and everybody's needs. Everybody's got an ego." I said, "But my dad was scared out of his mind the whole week, Scott. He really was." And his manager turned around and said, "God, you're full of you know what." I said, "Well, first of all, thank you. And who in the hell are you?" He said, I'm Robin Williams' manager. And if you thought your dad was scared, Robin was like, I'm working with Harvey Korman. Robin was intimidated by your father. Your father's an icon in this business." I said, "Well, so is Robin Williams. He's the one of the greatest." I said, "But there is no Robin. There is no whoever, Billy Crystal's there without your father, the Burnetts of the world." I thought, "Oh, that's a very interesting measuring stick." And he said, "But the whole week, it's like you want everybody to do their best work. You don't want to crush Whoopi's improv skills or Carl or Carol's." And I said, "But Chris, you have to understand, Robin has great respect for your father as an artist and as a person. He wanted to serve what your dad wanted to do for the scene." And I said, my dad wanted to serve Robin's needs too and not crush those needs. So you had two icons having a level of referential love and respect for each other. And those two worlds could have collided badly, and they didn't, because there was enough referential love to let the other one do what they needed to do without pushing down the other person saying, "Well, your ideas don't matter." It was, "Hey, Robin, you try this. If it works, if it doesn't, we'll try something else." So it was like that the whole week. So after the show, Scott Marshall and I had gone up to the stage. Scott Marshall has cerebral palsy, so we had to take the ramp up. We came around, and Robin and Whoopi and Carol was standing there. And Carol said, "This is Chris. This is Robin Williams. This is Chris Korman. This is Harvey's son." Robin said, "I don't think you had to tell me he was Harvey Korman's son. Anybody can tell from Chris's nose it's Harvey's son." And I think Whoopi Goldberg said something like, "You shouldn't be talking about somebody's nose. You're one hairy son of a, I said, "Okay, well, we didn't need to go there. We don't need to talk about body parts, like that." I said, "It's just a great honor to meet you." But I said, I think I told him, I said, "I have another connection with you." And I told him the story about how he did this charity event back in the 70s prior to, I think, Happy Days. And he had made it, and he had started making it big. And my mom was the chairwoman for this benefit, and she's the one that recommended you. I was like, "What?" I said, "Well, her name at the time was Donna Korman. It's not DiCenzo, but it's like, wait, your mother is the reason why I got that share show." I said, "Yes. So I have to thank your mother and your father?" He said, "You don't have to pay them, but you can thank them." I mean, He said, "God, it's amazing how the world intertwines." Because my mom had told me that story a couple of years ago, and I told him that. It's like, so it came out based on a recommendation from your mother. I said, "My mother had enough intelligence to know what funny is, having been around funny all her life, to know that you were big. You were going to be big." And he was like, oh my God. So he gave me a hug. And Carol and Whoopi are like going, I've never heard that story in my life. I said, I didn't hear about it until 5 years ago myself, Carol. So, and Whoopi's like hugging me, and Scott Marshall's laughing. We're all laughing. But it just makes you go, wow, you don't know who you're going to meet, who you're going to connect with in your life that is intertwined with other parts of your life. And it blew Waldron's mind that was my mother. And I said, it blew my mind when my mom told me the story. So, and it was just, I said, just for my father was so intimidated the whole week by working with you, Robin, because, you're an icon. And it's like, Chris, let me correct that. I might be one, but your father, anybody in this business, me, John Ritter, any of them, we aspired to you, your father, the Jerry Lewises, the Sid Caesars. And I thought, oh my God. Then I got it. I didn't realize until then, did I really get how big my father was?
Yeah.
In the annals of the business. And then prior to many years having met Burt Lancaster and meet all these people, you go, oh, this is almost surreal. Because to me, he was just Harvey Korman, the father. I could put it into perspectives. I understood how big he was. But when other icons say, I patterned what after all of my stuff after your dad. I heard Nathan Lane say in his book, Zero Mostel, Harvey Korman affected Nathan Lane's career. It's shocking. And you really it put me into, it gave me a different perspective of what my father did or had to do to get to that level of success and what sacrifices he had to make to get there. What I think I wanted to say was, in all that time, whatever insecurities he had as a father, raising a child with a learning disability, whatever fears and anxieties he had about measuring his value as a performer, it never kept him from doing what was right for his family. He never let those insecurities implode or override his sense of accomplishment and obligation to his family. So whatever fears he might have had about raising a child with a learning disability, I would never have known it because he never showed it. It was always me first, pride and ego second. And I think that's what I learned from him was there's no pride and ego in having a child. You can't have it. There's no place for it.
No, I think you actually are leading into the next section I want to talk about here, which has to do with this idea of acclaim and respect and the separation that you show in the book between how your father viewed the world of the family, this sacred place. And then you have, of course, the celebrity side. And what I can't say I was necessarily shocked by, but I was a little bit surprised. At one point, you talk about how you have the worry of the actor that whatever job just finished, maybe that's the last one. And here is your father who is so exceptional. People love him. Mel Brooks says whatever scene your father was in, he elevated every actor in that scene. I mean, this is an incredibly accomplished person. And at one point, your father has a conversation with you with that kind of nervousness. Maybe that's the end. How was that for you to hear? How did you reconcile that from the outside, knowing how respected and wonderful your father was?
Let's see if I can. I could tell. He told me once that he always felt kind of anxious when he knew if Marie and I, my sister and I, were in the audience, whether it was for his tour with Tim or the Burnett Show. And I said, why? It's because my anxiety of feeling the idea that I might let you and Maria or our family down because I was the breadwinner. And if I failed in that show, it fell on me. So the idea if I saw you in I Shot or Marie in I Shot, I would feel like, oh my God, if I screw up, I go up my lines, there's my career. That insecurity, the fear of letting everybody down. And I know that feeling really well. And I relate to him on that level. And he said, that's why he really said, if you're going to come to the 5 o'clock show, I will make sure that Usher puts you not in eye line to me if I do see you. And he was the same way when he was touring with Tim. I said, Dad, 7 years later, you're still anxious and worried that you're not going to be good enough for us. I said, he said, you have never left a performance in a makeup chair. Why are you worried about that now? He said, what? I said, you have never left a performance in a makeup chair. He said, well, how would you know that? I would know that because I've never seen you cheat yourself in a performance. You're not allowed, your training would not allow you to do that. At Goodman Theater, you study with Uta Hagen, you study at the HB Studios in New York. You have so much training, Dad. You have an existential crisis just saying good morning. You could do 20 minutes at the icebox. It's being the performer in you is a part of you. It's an extension of your humanity. You cannot cheat yourself or your audience out of a performance. And I said, I think that is, Dad, because you treat every performance like it could be your last. That way you don't have any regrets. And he said, oh my God, never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
I said, why is that? I said, because you have so many people sacrificed for you to get to where you got to, for you to dishonor them, to half-ass it would be a disgrace to the people who sacrificed for you to be where you are. Same as the same for me. If I had dismissed what teachers did for me or educators had done for me, and by just underachieving, I'm dishonoring them. So we both have a obligation to raise the bar, because if we don't, what are we saying to the people who sacrificed their life for us?
Yeah. And
he didn't understand that until, because he would call me up at 12 midnight. I'm in my apartment in Doyle's in Towson, Maryland, and he just done a performance on a show. 12 midnight, I'm looking at my phone like, this schmuck is up this late. He's watching a Dodger game. He's drinking. I don't know what he's doing, but why is he calling me at 12 midnight? And I'm on the toilet, which doesn't even help. So now I'm trying not to flush and take a shower. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm up all night. I got phone calls from people. I was on the Tonight Show. I was promoting this. I was doing this. And I was, it's like, and some relatives got mad that I had done this thing and that I didn't seem grateful to them. And I didn't say the right things. And I said, well, why are you calling me? I said, someone asked me about a performance, about a movie I did in 70 something. Like, you're calling me at 12 midnight about a performance you did in the 70s? Are you rewriting your resume? I mean, what the hell? Well, first of all, I'm half asleep. And I'm on the toilet. So that'll give you an idea where I am, Dad. Where are you? He's like, well, I'm drinking them into the bar. I said, well, I can imagine that. What is your point? So I can go back to bed. It's like 72 or a movie, 71. Who is it with? I don't know. Can you give me one actor? Hal Holbrook. Suddenly Single. It's like, yeah, it was you, Agnes Moorehead from Bewitched, Michael Constantine, the principal from Room 222. It's like, and I just started randomly throwing off like 20 people in the cast. It's like, you can throw that off at 12 midnight, half asleep. You just know. I said, there's not much I don't know about your life or your credits.
Yeah.
I said, good. I talk to you later. I love you. I'm like, you're not going to call me again with another credit, are you? Because I'm not going to go to bed if you're going to do this to me again in the next hour. I said, no, I'm fine. If I need to talk to you, I'll call you later. I said, by the way, Dad, I love you. You're fine. Now go back and drink. He's like, you go back to bed. I'm like, thanks.
Your father didn't really wholly buy into the glitz and glamour of it all. I mean, he reached a precipice here that very few people reach, but he didn't really buy into it.
To him, it was a way out of Chicago. It was to provide security for his family. He wasn't a fame seeker. He wanted to be a working actor who did his best work. He was a great character actor. When he came out in 60 with my mother, he did Munsters. He did Route 66. He did a Perry Mason. He did a few Skeletons. He just wanted to work. Back then, it was only 3 channels. So you just made the rounds. He just wanted to work. He wanted to provide for his family. He didn't think the fame wasn't the reason he did it. He wanted to be a sustainable actor and do his craft and be prideful of his craft. And he loved what he did. But there was the anxiety of, oh my God, if I'm not good enough, where's my next job going to be? And I think every actor has that fear anyway. So, but yeah, he never put it into the idea. I mean, if you had to do the parties, you had to do the ancillary things as you're an actor. You had to go to the parties. You have to go to the syndication events in Vegas. You have to play the game if you're an actor. If you want to stay relevant, you have to play the game. So during the off year of the Burnett Show, September to May was like a school year for the Burnett Show. September was the first season, started the season, and they went to probably in May, and then they had 3 months off. So most of the time he didn't try to do a movie. Occasionally he did Huckleberry Finn in 74. But he tried to keep the summers open just for us, for the family. But when he had to go back to work, it was time for work. When it was time for play, it was time for play. And he could separate. And that's the other thing is at home on Sundays with tennis and bagels and cream cheese, you didn't talk shop. He didn't analyze his performance. He didn't want to hear it. If someone came over as a friend of mine or my sister, hi, how are you? You're my sister, my son's friend. I'm not Harvey Korman, the actor. I'm Harvey Korman, the father. You can say, you were great in this movie. Thank you very much. He had a hard time with praise. He hated praise. I mean, I gave him praise and he was like, well, you have to say it. Well, no, you could say I could say it and I mean it. And if you're really bad, you'd want me to tell you. I said, yeah, I would want you to tell me. He said, well, when have you ever really been bad? I said, count off your hands. How many times you've been bad, Dad, in your life, in your career? Maybe the people around you didn't raise their bar, but that doesn't mean you didn't do your performance to the level you could. And I said, Dad, even if you were not my father, I could still say that to you. You were one of my comedy idols. You and John Ritter and P. Martin were my 3 favorites. And even if you were not my father, I'd still say that. He started to cry a little bit. And I said, I didn't know you felt that way about me. I said, I know more about your skills and talent than probably you do. I have a far better appreciation for your process than you do, because I know what it takes you to get to that point of feeling like you've actually achieved it. You got to Friday night and you gave your all. Every Friday night was a Broadway opening for you on the Burnett Show. And you cannot look back and have any regrets, because nobody who ever watched you has any regrets. And he didn't put it in that perspective until I think he got into the Hall of Fame in 2002. Did he really get it? He made it. Here's this schmo from Chicago who went to junior college, who didn't really make it in college. And he had to support his mother and his sister, and he had to be the breadwinner and all these pressures. And not until he went to the Hall of Fame in 2002 did he really get, oh my God, I had to really make it. I'm in the Hall of Fame with Johnny Carson and all my idols. And I said to him, I said, Dad, Chris, did you ever think I would get this big? I said, well, I always knew you were going to get into an institution. I just thought it was going to be Bellevue or downstate prison.
Excellent.
He said, your point's taken. Thank you. Now I'm going to go drink again. I'm like, do what you do well, Dale. Drink and eat. But it was I saw the tears in his eyes. I said, my father accomplished something. I felt the same when I graduated college. Was you didn't think you were going to get to the zenith of your potential, and you make it. And I just saw the tears in his eyes, and he was saying how much he owes Carol, and how much he owes everybody. And he was so humble and grateful for getting to that point where he was going to go into the Hall of Fame with his idols. And it meant a lot to me that Carol had inducted my dad and Tim that night. And I hugged him and kissed him. I said, I can't tell you how proud I am of you. And I said, I couldn't have done this without you. I said, you just told the whole audience, I don't know how any of you helped me get into the Hall of Fame. I said, well, that was for a joke. But your love and support is what helped me get here. Your belief in me. I said, when have I never not believed in you? I said, I don't think you ever shown that you don't believe in me. I said, that's right, because you never stopped believing in me. Why would I stop believing in you? Now let's go drink. I said, okay. But
yeah, no, there's nothing more. This kind of circles back to what we said about you're not always aware of the impact of what you say, but when it comes to parents and guardians, having that in the back of your pocket, knowing that your parent, your guardians, your siblings have faith in you, I mean, it means everything. And you mentioned too how proud you were with your graduation. And I want to shift the gear a little bit here toward that, because both of us share a passion for education. And I want to ask you, what do you think we should be considering when it comes to education and our youth?
Well, I've said this a couple of times to other people. There's more to life. There's more to life than just paying the bills and going to work. There has to be something in your day that lights you up creatively. It has to be ephemeral. It has to light you up artistically, creatively, whether it's write poetry or do art. Like my wife is a fine arts talent, or be a lyricist or a literary talent like yourself. There has to be something in your life that lights you up, that is fulfilling in ways other aspects of your life doesn't provide you. So I've said to educators that I've talked to on LinkedIn, and you're on LinkedIn too, so you've seen my post, is pre-high school, maybe junior high, there should be a test that measures artistic and creative output adjoined with the vocational aspiration aspect of assessments, and do it in junior high. Don't wait to college to go, oh God, now I have to figure out what I'm going to do. I thought that would be an important resource. I also took something when I was 22 to go along, and maybe just as important. I took an emotional IQ test. It's 45 minutes. I took it as a psychiatrist in Doylestown, and I wanted to cut out all the illogical fields I knew I was not going to go into, and really hone in on the field I was meant to be in, or the idea of retail, hospitality, or elder care. And I went into elder care, and I got a degree in elder care because I understood as a person with a disability, I could relate to people who had physical disabilities. They're moving at a slower pace, and everybody wants them to move. They're not being what they want that person to be. Come on, Grandma, let's move. You can't tell an 85-year-old woman, hey, let's move it. So I was like, Miss Johnson, take your time. It's okay. I'm here for you. And that was part of who I was, is I could take that compassion that I have for other people who struggle with being accepted for who they are in their life. And so I said to the psychiatrist, this test is completely wipe out all the other fields that don't make sense. It's like you'll hone in on exactly the field you want to focus on. I said, why didn't I take this test 4 years ago? It would have meant a lot more to me now, but don't let the gift horse in the mouth. I took it when I took it. So I think if we're really smart in this field, in this world, we have emotional IQ tests offered to people in junior high with disabilities, but somehow create a test that does measure creative and artistic output to go along with the vocational assessment, and let those two separate what's realistic and not realistic for that person to pursue, because it's not illogical for someone to say, okay, I can go to a vocational college and learn electronics. Fine. But that's not in your heart. Why do it? Don't do it because mom and dad said you need to spare them $100,000 a year, so go do it because you'll get a scholarship, and that can unburden your parents. I never hear my parents say that. Go do a job so you can unburden me. I almost felt like I should get the bigger job so I can unburden them, because I never wanted to felt like I was a burden on my parents. And I tell you, just there are times I had, and there are times I have in my life felt like I need to get that bigger job. I need to get that job that's going to make me a lot of money, so I don't always have to feel like my mother and my father had to sacrifice more of their life for me. And my father said, when have you ever heard your mother and I complain? I said, you wouldn't have, but that's the problem, because I could see in your face, maybe, just maybe, if I'd done more. And he corrected me and said, no, that's in your head. That's entirely in your head. That's a perception you think you have to lessen our guilt of raising a child or having a child with a learning disability. That's on your mother and I. If we did something wrong, or the doctor did something wrong, okay, fine, whatever, that's on us. But that's not on you. Because I always felt like I always had to get that job that was going to be like, wow. Expense reports and a limo and a car and whatever, and a nice wardrobe. It's like, that's shallow, immaterial things that don't matter, that measure success, Chris. I said, yeah, well, that's easy for you to say. You don't have a learning disability. It's easy for you to say because you've accomplished to the greater zenith of your life. I felt like I haven't gotten there. I don't know what that value is, what my value is, unless I'm doing what makes me happy, and that's working in the elder care field or hospitality. I said, so go towards those two worlds and find your niche. And he said to me that it's changed my whole perspective on my life. He said, you are your own marketing team. You are your own billboard. You're your own business card. If you want to separate yourself from everybody else in the world that you want to be in, don't give the world what they want. Give them what they can't live without. I thought, oh my God, that's it. That's it for me. That's my life credo. And I live with that, is that when I'm marketing or networking, that's my hook. But I changed my font and my deliverance on my LinkedIn page because of you, Joseph. You used the word amplify. And I'm now using the word amplify from now on because it captures the essence of what I'm trying to do. And thanks to you, I take a perception now of, instead of me trying to sell the idea of what my value is to them, is my value is how can I filter what you're doing? How can I be the filter system and amplify your vision, your teaching philosophy through the prism of what I've experienced? So I'm networking your process, your vision out there in the world, but through my perspective of what your value is to students. So from now on, I use the word amplify with everybody, thanks to you. So I thank you for that word because it does capture the essence of networking. You are a network. You're amplifying the vision and the marketing scheme of another person filtered through your sensibilities so people can make it more relatable. Because if it's just me talking about I'm Harvey Korman's son, then this just sounds like I'm bragging. I'm saying, look how great I am. When the fact is, what I'm trying to say is to a theater program in Chicago or New York is, okay, what is your overall intent? What is your teacher's intent? How can I take the teacher's intent and verbalize it in a way that's more relatable to other people who are not in that field? So I can help you with enrollment. I can help you with marketing. But it's got to be filtered through something that's relatable. So I thank you, Joseph, for using the word amplify because I changed the description of what I am on LinkedIn. I said, I'm a celebration of the Harvey Korman brand, the amplification and celebration of struggling artists throughout the world. And that's what I put on there, thanks to you.
I really appreciate the kind words. And it's when teaching is at its best, that's really what it boils down to, is amplification of the students. What do you want to be? I begin every semester pretty much the same way. I always tell students, look, the world doesn't need 1950 more of me. It just needs the one. That's plenty, right? But what it does need is it needs one of each of you. And you have to amplify what you can offer to the world. And sometimes, it means sitting down with a student and asking them tough questions about, well, do you really like what you're doing? Like, can you see yourself doing this for, 30, 40, 50 years even? And, they know themselves pretty well, actually, believe it or not. And sometimes they'll look you in the eye and they'll say, no. And I'll say, well, then you've got to have some difficult conversations here. You have to think beyond just these 3, 4, 5 years and think about who you want to be as a person, as a human being, and what you want to offer the world. And that's very important because, like you said, we need to maximize too, even in a selfish way. As a species, we should want to maximize the best that we can get out of everyone. Every possible person. Are you always going to do it? No. But we should always strive to get the best we can out of every single human being.
Absolutely. Well, it goes back to that. Well said. Very eloquent. Because it goes back to the idea, if you never have to work a day in your life, it's because you found something in your life that's a journey that fulfills you like nothing else can. That means you don't have to work a day in your life. Because if it's a chore, if it's, oh my God, I have to do this again. Broadway actors go, oh, I have to do this again. I got 6 more to do. You've only done 2. You got 6 more to do. I have to say the same line at this chair every night, and I have to get shot in the second act. And I'm like, you know what? If you don't like what you're doing, why are you doing it? Don't do it for another. If you're the breadwinner in your family, that's on them. That's another thing about being, I never wanted to feel like my father was a breadwinner to me. That I had to put the pressure on him to keep on having to work because of me. And that sounds selfish. And And I used to think that, and I realized he had 30,000 people in his pocket. I realized it's not just me, but if I could do more for myself, then I could say, hey, I'm doing more for myself, and I have less time in my dad's pocket. I feel more self-contained because I'm doing what I love to do. Then my job isn't a chore, because my dad said, if you're doing what you love, Chris, but you get to a point in your life where you go, oh my God, I have to do this again as an actor or anything, get out. Just get out. Because if he hit the wall in his career, it was probably sometime after maybe this late, after Mama's Family or something. He said, why am I doing this? Why am I performing? It's like, what else am I going to do? He went to take a vocational assessment test, and this is really funny. I didn't tell you this on the last one because it just hit me. He took a vocational test somewhere in his early 20s, and it said he should be a mortician. Okay. He took the same test again. A couple of months later, he cheated. It came out the same way. So he said, see, cheating doesn't help, Chris. I said, well, Dad, it's funny that you say mortician actor, because I don't think I've seen you die on stage, although Mom said you have. Stop listening to your mother. Stop talking to your mother, okay? I had not died on stage that often. Maybe with Conway once in a while, or maybe a dog or a Disney film. But other than that, I think I've done pretty good on stage. I said, that's true. I'll give you that. But
totally worth it too. Totally worth taking the test, if for nothing else than to get that joke of dying on stage.
Yeah. Well, I said, Dad, you walked right into it. Like, you knew when you said death and mortician, I was going to go there. So, you set me up beautifully. I said, great. I'm a setup to my son now. Great. See, that's my life is about being a setup man to everybody, even the dog and the postman. I'm a setup man. But I just, I thought, with the educational systems that we have now, it seems to me like our government and our society as a whole, they put almost no faith in the idea of science or the arts. Now, I'll give Biden something. He has put a lot more money into the endowment of the arts, and he did hire somebody to be in charge of that. And that's great. But take the endowment of the arts a little bit further and stretch it out and tap into the world of special ed and theater arts and help those who have cerebral palsy, who have any kind of disability, ADH, whoever has a physical disability or a challenge, and give them another choice other than just settling for working for Costco's or McDonald's. There has to be a bigger, better opportunity. Whatever compensational tools that need to be provided under the American Disabilities Act, everything has to be exhausted before you say, we can't do this for you. I don't think that's always the case. I think it's just easier to say, hey, go work at McDonald's to a child with a disability or whatever their problem is to settle for settling. You can't settle just to settle. What are you telling that child? Don't raise the bar. Don't set your goals higher than just getting through the day. What are you telling the child? You're telling them to settle?
Yeah.
I mean, my parents never said that to me, settle. Don't set the bar so high that you can't reach it, though, either. Don't set it so low that you trip over it. Set it just high enough so you can jump over it and feel good about it. And so,
wonderfully stated. And we're making our way here toward the end, and I just have a couple more questions, and I'm going to ask you about some projects you're working on as well. Two questions. For people who finish reading your book, what do you want them to walk away having learned about Harvey Korman, the man?
That he was a father and family man first, and a celebrity and public figure second. That in some strange way, the Burnett Show was a cathartic purge for him. He could come to this sandbox that is Burnett Show and get whatever anxieties and insecurities that he had about being a father of a child with one disability, whatever anxieties he might have had about himself as a person, or as a husband or a father, he put it into his performance. That's why I call it a cathartic purge, because he had to get all that out so he can then go home and be a father. So I say that's why how important a creative outlet is for the mental value, well-being that we all have as a performer. That art, doing music, doing poetry can help save somebody's life. It can help channel that energy instead of doing drugs or suicide is I can channel that energy, that anxiety, those frustrations into something that's creative, that could also then take that creative opportunity and reach out to somebody else who's like, oh my God, I feel that. I relate to that. So you take your disability, you take your challenges, your fears, and you turn into an educational component that has relevancy to other people. I don't think we measure those values. Oh, it's just art, it's just science. Well, where would we be without art and science?
Yeah.
So my father, I like to think that people saw that, oh, he never put his fame and fortune ahead of what he needed to do for his family. And he certainly didn't ever put whatever insecurities he might have had, whatever insecurities my mom might have had of having a child with a learning disability. They never showed it. They never expressed it to me. But again, as you said, tough love. They also didn't, in the same vein, they didn't also let me play the crutch card, the woe is me card. Because of going back to the idea of every sacrifice made for me has to be honored by a better effort.
Mm-hmm.
So the boundary line about the show business and one disability part has been one a healthy level of ambivalence that I've had to feel is when it's time to be Harvey Korman's son and when it's time to be Scott Korman's father and Patricia Korman's husband. There's those two lines. Sometimes they meld, they intercede or intersect. Sometimes it's in inopportune times they do intersect. That's why I try to just say to my wife, by 4 o'clock, I'm turning off my computer. No more showbiz networking. But if the end result is getting to the point where I get a job or I do something that provides income for my family and some security, there's that ambivalent issue that comes up. I'm doing it. I have to play the Harvey Korman card because it's going to provide for my family. That's the only time I have to play it or should play it or want to play it. Other than that, I just want to be Scott Korman's father and Patricia Korman's husband, Joseph Meyer's friend. So yeah, we all wear hats. Yeah. You just have to know when to put that hat on and find that measure, that balance between being. So I have been presenting with the idea there's a speakers bureau for people with disabilities. Jerry Jewell, who has cerebral palsy, who is the cousin on Facts of Life, Lisa Welch's cousin on Facts of Life. And she's on this part of the speakers bureau. And she told me she'd been there with 30 years. And it's Damon and Associates. And they had, through a mutual friend of mine, had said, would you like to come aboard and be one of our speakers on our speakers annex? I said, sure, I'd love to. So hopefully I'll be doing some public speaking. Hopefully I won't have to fly. I would rather do things online with this Omicron thing. I don't want to fly. And then I've been involved with this Foundation for Neurodiversity based in Tampa and sit on their panel, contribute what I've learned from my journey of having brain damage. And my father was found to have a brain tumor in his head before he died. So it almost seems like a empathetic journey I have to go on. There's like some closure that I can have with this brain damage issue that my family has suffered with, filtered through the idea of working for the Foundation of Neurodiversity, is that I can help express my challenges through a academic, medical, scientific realm. And Allie, their coordinator for this event, February 6th, which I think I sent you the ad, was how do we take what we've suffered with brain damage, the struggles people have struggled with brain damage related issues, and how do we heal the mind, how we heal the body. And I think the Foundation for Neurodiversity could be for that world of what St. Jude is for cancer research. It could be a beacon of light. So hopefully I can do a lot of good work for the Foundation for Neurodiversity in Florida over a period of time and filter what I've learned about healing the mind, healing the body through the expression through the arts, through sense memory. And I thought about this. For those who never read the book about the Burnett Show, it's called I'm So Glad We Had This Time Together by Wesley Hyatt. And I'm reading the book, And I created this word called audializing. I hear and I vision Peter Matz taking the A train. I can picture in my head the cameraman get into position. Then it becomes a smelling sense, because then I can now smell the fresh paint of the walls. And I started thinking, I wonder if that are tools that could be used to help people who have suffered brain damage. Sense, smell, and how those can be interlocked with the idea of healing the mind. If they smell something, it would connect them with the memory.
Yeah.
And sound. Because every time I hear Rampart Street Parade or take the A train, I start bawling. Because I connect those songs to my childhood and memories. If I smell something, I can remember, I remember that restaurant we went to. So one of the things that I want to talk to Allie, the people at the Foundation of Neurodiversity, is how can we link smell, sense as sense memory tools to help heal the mind, help with the memory part of the brain. And that's something I will bring up with her. But to be a part of something like that, strangely, it goes back, my whole world's coming back to the issue of the brain. I started my life with a brain with highly membrane disease, and I'm now going to be able to talk about it in the context of helping other people. So was my brain damage really a bad thing? I can now turn it into a plus instead of look at it as it was a minus. I was meant to have highly membrane disease. Otherwise, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be the person I am today if I had not gone through those struggles, because those struggles humbled me to realize I had a second chance at life because of so many medical people, the medical profession. Where would I be without them? Where would I be without science and medicine? I can now get back to those worlds in my own way.
Yeah.
So they say everything is circular. It's true. So
yeah. We need, and you mentioned the beacon of light. We need as many beacons as we can get anywhere and everywhere. If you can do some good in the world, do it. That's
Absolutely.
kind of what it comes down to, essentially, a little bit. Chris, I think that's a wonderful place to kind of wrap this up with that beautiful sentiment that you have here. I'm going to put links in the episode notes that people can check out for the foundation, for the event, and ways that they can support you. And I'll put links to any place that you would like as well for people to learn more about you and your work. I can't thank you enough for allowing me to have this conversation with you. I really do appreciate it. Even the second time around, which will be our inside joke, that this is the second time, but it was just...
Second time is usually better than the first time.
I enjoyed them both. I loved them both. Thank you so much for being on here. I really appreciate it. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my conversation with Christopher Korman, and I encourage anyone looking for a good read about family, love, personal struggle, and the difficult but sometimes hysterical job of wading through celebrity culture to check out Chris's book, Oh My God, It's Harvey Korman's Son, through the link in the episode notes below. You won't be disappointed. Until next time, try to keep one foot firmly planted on neutral ground. And have a great day.